To an average person, a risky house would be one in a neighborhood with a high crime rate. Every day you're risking not finding your car up on blocks. But this property takes risky to a whole new level. Located on the Sonoma coast around 2 hours from San Francisco, this $3.9 million home is turning heads. While its views over the Pacific Ocean and nearly all glass facade are likely why, it's also its position which adds to the appeal or risk, whichever way you may want to look at it. The home is perched on a small, pointy rock that juts out around 300 feet over the Pacific Ocean. Doesn't get much more breathtaking or nerve-wracking than that. The property in Jenner, California was designed by architect Richard Clements in 1964. Richard also owned and designed the Timber Cove Inn, which sits adjacent. It underwent significant renovations in 2012 to take it from a 60s-era classic to a 21st-century modern masterpiece. It's now fitted with new decks, a new roof, plumbing, wiring, flooring, and a custom hot tub. Risky or rewarding? You be the judge. Number 9. House in the Hillside. You may not want to live in the riskiest house in the world, but would you be willing to stay in one? One property, half built into the hillside in Mega Livati, is offering that experience. The structure has been separated into 2 residences to be rented out separately. They overlook a beautiful bay and are encompassed by a family-friendly sandy beach. Both residences have unique features and are both special regarding their architectural and historical relevance as well. When you see this property from a distance, it's hard not to let your heart race. After all, it's built precariously into a hillside with not even breathtaking views to stop you remembering that. Fortunately, you can enjoy a few days of luxury here as both homes have undergone renovation, and then you can go back home to the comfort of your non-risky property. While you're there though, you may as well enjoy it. The central part of the home has 5 bedrooms with en-suites, a living and dining room, a cellar, and a shower room. One of the bedrooms also has a veranda with pergola. A courtyard with a pergola, a yard with trees, and a ladder down to the ocean all add to the appeal of this beautiful abode. Number 8. Habitat 67. Apartment life is not for everyone. It can be hard to sacrifice indoor-outdoor flow and outdoor living, even if it means you're close to the city center. But what if you could have both? Architect Moshe Safdie proved it was possible. Moshe sketched out a revolutionary housing development idea in the 1960s, which involved 354 concrete boxes stacked on top of each other in a 3D pixelated mound styling. They would be stacked in such a way that every apartment could have a private outdoor space to call its own. While on paper the design looked crazy and entirely unachievable, especially for the era, it was anything but. In fact, it became a reality and was called Habitat 67, built for Montreal's Expo 67. Such was the success of the building project that it was recognized with a commemorative postage stamp, and also became the subject of an exhibition at a university in Montreal. As it turns out, you can have it both ways. City life with a twist, even if the initial idea seemed a little risky, unachievable, insane, and unbelievable. Number 7. House on Middle Sedge Island. Door-to-door salespeople can be quite frustrating, and even the neighbor's stereo going at all hours of the evening can send you up a wall. So while the house on Middle Sedge Island might be a little risky, it's probably also quite a desirable option for many people. In 2015, a house was put up for sale online for $6.5 million. Now, that's quite a lot to pay for a home, so what was so special about it? It was on its own unique little island, only accessible by boat and helicopter in the middle of a popular beach community. The home covered 4,866 square feet with a 1,200-foot guest house, and it was set upon 14.4 acres of land. The entire island was 25 acres. In its heyday, the house was something truly magnificent. It had a pool and rec room, a wet bar, porch, bocce court, heated pool, and much, much more. However, bankruptcy by the owners was filed in 2016, and after Superstorm Sandy, the property has fallen into a state of disrepair. The island became flooded, the built-in pool was uprooted, and the home was damaged. Today, it probably is quite a dangerous place to live. Number 6. Meteora. Meteora is a must-visit destination in Greece, which translates to hovering in the air. That name might puzzle you at first, but it won't when you see the structures built into the giant rocks. During the 11th century, the area of Meteora was inhabited by monks living in caves. During the Turkish occupation, however, the monks began to feel uncertain of all the lawlessness the city was seeing. Therefore, they started living higher and higher up the rocks until they had built homes at the top of the inaccessible peaks. To them, it made sense. The harder they were to access, the easier it was to keep away from all the problems below. They built their rock homes by transporting materials with ladders, ropes, and baskets, and living supplies were transported in this way too. To visit these rock homes today, there's a series of pathways and roads for access by car and foot. However, you can still see examples of the age-old method of transportation, and it will surely make you thankful for modern technology that allowed the buildings to be accessible in an easier way. Number 5. The Drina River House. The Drina River in the Balkans has always been an exhausting place to partake in water sports. Its waves can be particularly challenging to tackle, but it was still a favored swimming spot by locals. One day in 1968, a group of young Yugoslavians took a break from all that tiresome swimming and sunbathed on top of a rock that jutted out from the river. However, because it was jagged, they decided to bring boards from the shore to make it a bit more comfortable. Before long, those boards became a house, and it became one of the most popular destinations for locals. Even as flooding and weather conditions tried their hardest to ruin the house, local Serbians continued to repair it. It's now famous throughout the world and even appeared as the National Geographic's photo of the day. The house is set on the highest point of the rock with a small balcony area, windows, a door, and a roof. It's accessible only by boat and swimming and has a little room for shelter on the inside. Because of continuous weather damage, the Drina River house you see today is probably not going to look the same as the one that appears on the rock next year. Number 4. Island House. If you've ever traveled along Highway 401 in Ontario, Canada, then you may have been curious about the Thousand Islands region and what it holds within. This unique wilderness area separates the US from Canada and has over 1,000 islands formed by receding glaciers around 12,000 years ago. To be counted as islands, the land masses within the Thousand Islands region have to have at least 1 square foot of land above the surface of the water year-round and should support at least 2 trees. On one piece of land that ticks that box is a beautiful castle, which is only accessible by boat and helicopter. It's situated on the New York side of the border and was commissioned by millionaire George Bolt. The castle has a private bowling alley and has seen over $15 million worth of renovations. It's also available to hire for private events like weddings. While this property is undeniably beautiful, it's also risky. It's often challenging to access and is prone to power outages. There are also often food shortages on the island too. You may be able to access many of the islands within the Thousand Islands region by paddle boat, but this one is just that little bit trickier. Number 3. Chemosphere House. Is it a spaceship or is it a house? One thing's for sure, it's risky. The Chemosphere House in Los Angeles, United States was designed in 1960 by John Laudner, but you'd be forgiven for thinking it's brand new. With octagonal shaping and contemporary features, it does look like a home of the future. So much so that Encyclopedia Britannica called it the most modern home built in the world. John chose the unique design of this home due to the tricky layout and conditions of the land on which it was built. He was given 2 choices: cut a level platform out of the sloped land or use an open steel framework. He decided on the latter. The UFO-style octagonal house now boasts panoramic views over the water and neighboring properties, and it's no wonder that John was given such kudos for his ingenuity. He both solved a problem and gave himself an exceptional outlook to wake up to every day. The best part is, the entire house project only cost $30,000, but is now worth over $3.5 million to the right buyer. Number 2. Free Spirit Sphere House. When we're kids, we don't have a danger gauge or a fear meter. We do stuff, even if it's risky, without thinking about the consequences. A company called Free Spirit Spheres is trying to help adults get back to that freedom and relaxed way of living with their spherical tree houses. Who said you couldn't live in a tree house? If you want to, then, do it. Go! The treehouse spheres, while risky compared to a regular house, are really quite magical. They're simplistic, tasteful, and designed to blend into a natural environment. They are also hung in trees with suspension ropes, spiderweb styling, and a 5 to 100 foot elevation range, depending on your preference. You can either fall 5 feet to the ground or 100 feet. It's really up to you. The exterior materials are formed in much the same way as a kayak or canoe, with wood and fiberglass shells. The inside is equally as innovative, with vinyl upholstery fabric, multiple layers of bubble wrap insulation, and varnished wood. While living in a treehouse full-time is probably not an option, there's no reason why you can't erect one in your backyard and enjoy a little bit of risk from time to time. Come on, release that inner child. Number 1. Akraberg. If you want to break away from the hustle and bustle of city life and you don't mind an element of risk, then the Akrabergi Lighthouse on the southern tip of Faroe Islands is where you need to be. Getting to this remote location, part of the Kingdom of Denmark, is not easy, but there's no denying it will be worth it. Travelers will need to take a ferry to the island of Svarøy from Tórshavn. For the next 2 hours, all you can do is twiddle your thumbs before you arrive in Svarøy and travel to the southernmost village of Sumba. From Sumba, it's a 2-mile trip to the lighthouse, which is easily one of the most underrated locations in the world. Looking down once you reach the lighthouse is not an experience for the faint of heart. All you see is rocky cliffs, crashing waves, and a long trip to the ground. However,